Hello, this is Tarregor. This video is a stream on twitch.tv that was not edited, so it's going to look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision of Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW circa Shadowlands, and a private servers, Vanilla Plus and Turtle WoW. This is partially because the same fix Vanilla WoW's many problems first, flush out functions already there second, and add new content third. This is part of a playlist of videos. Check this video's description for a link to the playlist. The document displays my vision of Classic Plus, and the document version number is version 1.5.16. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of World of Warcraft. If you just want to know about the general design 1.12.2, that's the one before the Burning Crusade pre-patch. Before the pre-patch. If you just want to know about the general design direction of a vision of Classic Plus before you otherwise look into this, then watch an introductory video in this playlist or review the document yourself and look at the list of major features. The link to the document is in my channel's about page. That night, I do not substitute people or however work with me when I can actual private server address. This is all here designed this far, and it ain't done yet. Now, before I get into this, you want to know what general profession, you all know what profession cooldowns and profession level. Most examples of profession cooldowns are vanilla engineering bombs and grenades and such and whatnot. This is what the glossary says about profession cooldowns and profession level restriction variables. A profession buff / profession cooldown is a specific combat altering bonus ancestral ability that is not necessarily tied to equipment that primary profession is granted player, in order to make engineering not be the end-all be-all best profession in the entire game by leaps and bounds. Such buffs include the profession giving a permanent bonus to a stat, or an activated ability of some sort, or the ability to use an item or enchant that requires having a profession at a specific level or higher. And possibly if a specific profession specialization, in order to make use of it in the first place. You'll lose your profession buff / cooldowns if you drop a profession. Of course, make use of it in the first place means that, for example, if it's a passive bonus, you will not get that passive bonus unless you have enough of X profession, possibly of X profession specialization. Now, a profession level restriction variable, which I would like to think of a better name for, but I can't. A profession level restriction variable is the character level that best corresponds to a specified profession level, concerning how powerful the items are that you can craft at a given. A character level of 8 best corresponds to a profession level of 65, and a character level of 54 best corresponds to a profession level of 295. Now, back to the introduction. It is also worth mentioning that almost every damaging and crowd controlling area of effect spell, item, and buff that is available to players in the entire game, it was nerfed to have a hard target cap, all Thunderclap, Whirlwind, and War Stomp of 6 targets per spellcast or tick, as part of getting rid of the melee cleave and damage cleave, the melee cleave and spell cleave metagames for good. Damage. Now then, to go over buffs, because Alchemy involves so many buffs and shit like that, I'm going to go over buff stacking. Now, which section was that? 11.0.4. Table of contents. Oh yeah, here it is. Not 4. How did it not find 11.0.4? It says it right here. Oh, I had to select it. No wonder. General buff / buff stacking shall be changed in. Okay, buff stacking shall be changed its buffs. Category A buffs shall be player-casted buffs, such as Blood Packs, Mark of the Wild, Greater Blessing Sanctuary, Battle Shout, Totems, and etc. These will all stack with each other as they had before in patch 1.12.2, except are otherwise stated in this design document. Category B buffs. These will be ordinary potions, scrolls, and type B world buffs, such as all scrolls and all potions and elixirs that have an effect that lasts for longer than 1 minute and are not elemental protection potions or frozen runes. You may only have one of these at a time. What's a type B world buff? I'll get to that. Category C buffs are short potions, such as free action potions, living action potions, and restorative potions, as well as various non-potions such as fish liver oil, but not things that apply heal over time and / short mana over time effects, such as Razor Lash Root, nor things that health stones share a cooldown with. You may only have one at a time. Category D buffs are elemental protection potions and frozen rune. You may only have one of those at a time. You may not stack a frozen rune of an elemental protection potion, for example. Category E buffs are flasks. You, of course, may only have one flask at a time. Category F buffs are well-fed and beverage buffs. You may only have one of these active at a time. Category G buffs are Type A world buffs. You may only have one of these at a time. Oh, speaking of which, I'm going to modify a script here. Alchemy video and cooking videos. For a second. Save video script. That's for the introduction. Anyway. Yeah, Category G buffs are Type A world buffs. You may only have one of these at a time. Category H buffs are cosmetic buffs. These will stack like in vanilla, except for the part that gets the huge for Baha'u'llah and Pumpkin Tree. That will count as a Category F buff instead of a Category H buff. Category I buff is stuff that shares a cooldown with health stones. These will all stack with each other. Not. Category J buffs are miscellaneous buffs that I have not mentioned above, such as health / mana gains from food and drinks, which shall stack as I had in vanilla, except they're otherwise stated in this document. Type A world buff. A Type A world buff, according to the glossary, is a non-portable world buff, excluding War Chief's Blessing. A Type B world buff is a portable world buff, and War Chief's Blessing. Why War Chief's Blessing? Because, well, if you really think about it, it wouldn't work out so well. War Chief's Blessing counted as a Type A world buff. People would get mad if you popped Ren's head. People would often get mad if you popped Ren's head in that case. However, if it's a Type B world buff, then no one's going to get mad if you pop. Because Type A world buffs are not so easy to replace, but Type B world buffs are. The issue here is that you can get War Chief's Blessing and Rallying Cry the Dragon Slayer from the same place. Anyway. Oh, that's a fire call. Alchemy. Now, before the actual changes come, the execution. I generally want to flesh out the game. I want to make some non-valuable reagents become valuable, such as elemental air. I want to make alchemy recipes and no longer come from 40-man raids, due to some changes that I made to raids, and well, the endgame reward system in general, really. I want to revise the game's consumables so consistent itemization and not get out of hand, among other things. I want to add spell resistance penetration elixirs to help fire damage spellcasters in certain raids, and to help shamans in the Emerald Nightmare. I want to make alchemy be as good for raiding as engineering is when someone else can make every single item in the entire game for you on the spot. I want to cut down professional alts in order to improve the economy. And I want to do things that are related to other sections. By the way, I am also lowering the cooldown of all transmutes, as well as cutting down professional alts. So first, the alchemy recipe changes. The changes to the recipes and not what they produce. Just what you need to produce them and how. Free action potions, in addition to their vanilla reagents, will also require 2 strangled kelp to craft in order to keep strangled kelp valuable. Elixir giants, in addition to their vanilla reagent costs, will also require 1 core of earth to be crafted to go towards making cores of earth not be better trash. Mighty rage potions, well, in addition to their vanilla reagents, will also require 1 heart of fire to be crafted to go towards making hearts of fire be more valuable. Elixirs of greater firepower, in addition to their vanilla reagents, will also require 1 heart of fire to be crafted to go towards making hearts of fire be more valuable. I need water. That's better. Gift of Harvest, in addition to its vanilla rating costs, will also require 1 Acre of Undeath to be crafted to go towards making Acre of Undeath not be vendor trash. Design notes. Since this will be the main use of Acre of Undeath, I cannot afford to make elixirs of Detect on Undead require one of these to be crafted. Let's even less people make them. It's a vanilla elixir. I'm not going to get rid of it just because it's useless. Elixir Shadow Power will additionally require 1 Acre of Undeath to be crafted to go towards making an Acre of Undeath not be vendor trash. That's 1 Acre of Undeath in addition to its vanilla Regan costs. Invisibility Potion, in addition to its vanilla Regan costs, will also require 1 Breath of Wind to be crafted to go towards making Breaths of Wind not be vendor trash. Rare Gangster Protection Potion will require an Elemental Air instead of an Elemental Earth to be crafted, among other vanilla Regans. This will go towards making Elemental Air not be vendor trash. There will still be plenty of other uses for Elemental Earth. Frost Oil, in addition to its vanilla Regan cost, will also require 2 Elemental Water to be crafted to go towards making Elemental Water not be vendor trash. Mighty Rage Potion, in addition to its vanilla... Oh. Mighty Rage Potions will not... Mighty Rage Potions, in addition to their vanilla Regan costs, will require 1 Heart of Fire to craft, like I already said. But furthermore, instead of requiring large chains to craft, they'll require Wicked Claws to craft. Where did I write this? And to increase the value of Wicked Claws while letting large fangs retain some value. The source of recipe, Major Rejuvenation Potion, will be moved to Timbermaw Hold Reputation. All alchemy recipes that were offered by the Zandlar tribe will instead be roll drops for level 60 to 63 NPCs, or possibly 58 to 63. All flasks, instead of requiring a Black Lotus to craft, will require a Black Lotus oil to craft, which is crafted from 1 Black Lotus and 1 imbued vial. The recipe drops from King Gordok with a 1% chance or so. All flasks will require an imbued vial instead of a crystal vial to craft, which will marginally reduce economic inflation by a tiny bit. There's much more effective stuff I'm doing to reduce economic inflation, such as this. And stuff in other parts of this document, by the way. Anyways, all flasks, in addition to their vanilla reagent costs, will also require a new reagent that is sold by alchemy vendors. I have not decided the name of the reagent yet, for a base cost of 20 gold each. This is also obtainable from a non-player character historian point. I'll trade 3 essences of fire for one of said reagents as a repeatable quest, and he shall have another repeatable quest to earn. He shall trade 10 hearts of fire for one of those reagents, but neither quest will offer Thorium Brotherhood reputation, though both will require friendly or higher to do. This will act as a humongous gold sink, as well as helping to keep hearts of fire and essences of fire valuable, which they can really use in so many of those things, dropping Blackrock Depths into Molten Core. Recipe, Flask of Insurmountable Vitality, formerly called Flask of the Titans, will only drop from Sotos and Jaren with a 1% drop rate. It'll require, in total, 300 skill, 30 stone scale oil, 10 ice cap, 1 black lotus oil, 1 of the aforementioned D20 gold reagent, 1 imbued vial, and a flask table to craft, in total. Recipe, Flask of Enigmatic Insight, formerly called Flask of Distilled Wisdom, will only drop from more Greyhoof with a 1% drop rate. Recipe, Flask of Supreme Power, will only drop from Cormac with a 1% drop rate, and its 30 Dreamfoil requirement will be replaced with a 30 Plague Room requirement. Oh, by the way, I changed the content release schedule. The D2 bosses, now D1 bosses, will be available at release. I also got rid of the D2 questioning and replaced it with the D1 questioning, and I switched down all the raids to be tier 1 raids and made everything to be tier 1 stuff. So item levels are not going to get crazy powerful. But yeah, I went over that stuff in different videos. Anyway, back to alchemy stuff. Flask of Supreme Power, yeah, only from Cormac. Its 30 Dreamfoil requirement will be replaced with a 30 Plague Bloom requirement. Recipe, Flask of Unparalleled Acuity, a new flask, will only drop from Lord Falflock with a 1% drop rate. Now then, I'll get to what this does later. Now then, Alchemy product changes. Now, first off, design note. I do not remember all the reasons why I had to make classes have as many itemization points as they had, but part of it has to do with allowing raids to be thematically difficult, and part of it has to do with making sure that people who don't skip on classes and raids when they get method slot forever gear. Not everybody's a mega tryhard who gives a damn about parsing, and I want those people who are not mega tryhards to contribute towards economic deflation to help make epic items stay epic. Help epic items to stay epic. If I do increase it, then make each one grant no more than 120 itemization points worth of stats. It being the itemization value of flasks. How powerful flasks are allowed to be. Anyway, now the actual changes here. Gift of Arcus Disease will no longer increase physical damage taken by 8 points of damage. It'll instead increase melee damage taken by 1%, which stacks with all other such debuffs, but not itself. This change is being done to make it easier due to some class balance itself. That 8 damage has a surprisingly large impact upon class balance. Elixirs of Fortitude and Minor Fortitude will increase the user's stamina by 12 and 3 respectively, instead of directly increasing the user's maximum hit points. Mighty Rage Potion will no longer... That way there's... Nah. Mighty Rage Potion will no longer increase the user's strength for however the fuck many seconds. It does not need to be that good for burst threat. Greater Arcane Elixir will only grant 2 spell hit and 6 spell damage. Nothing else. Elixir Greater Firepower grants 43 fire damage. Elixir Greater Firepower grants 43 fire damage in total. Elixir Shadow Power, 43 damage in total. Shadow damage. Elixir Brute Force will grant 30 strength in total. Nothing else. Elixir Greater Agility will only grant 30 agility. Elixir to Mongoose will only increase crit chance by 2% and attack power by 10. Elixir to Giants will only grant 30 stamina. Elixir Greater Intellect will only grant 30 ints. Elixir to Sages will only grant 30 spirit. Thinking back, I should have actually updated the list of endgame consumables. The list is technically in this document, but I haven't actually composed it into an easily readable list. So you'd have to go all throughout the design document to find all the consumables. Let's make one later and stick it in the comment section. Anyway, Elixir to Giants will only grant 30 stamina. Elixir Greater Intellect will only grant 30 ints. Elixir to Sages will only grant 30 spirit. Major Scroll of Bludgeon will only grant 12 health per vibe, while minor ones give 6, strong ones give 4, and minor ones give 1. By the way, I made an entire video about changes made to the stats of HP 5 and MP 5. HP 5 is quite a bit more useful now, but it still is only oh so good, I suppose. There's only so much I can do to it. Design note. If I change how valuable MP 5 is again, then change how much MP 5 Mage Blood Potions give me. I don't want to forget about that one. However, Mage Blood Potions currently have the correct itemization value of 12 MP5, if I recall correctly. Elixir Minor Defense, Greater Defense, and Superior Defense will grant 2/3 as much armor as they had before, rounded up. Free action potions will last for 8 seconds instead of 30 seconds. They would otherwise be over-centralizing, causing people to not drink almost all other potions in PvP. Limited Invulnerability Potions will last for 4 seconds instead of 6 seconds. They'd otherwise be over-centralizing, causing people to not drink almost all other potions in PvP, and may be easier to exploit within raids. I might lower it to 3 seconds. Side note, consider nerfing it to 3 seconds. Due to Restorative Potions will, instead of dispelling magic debuff, cure, curse, disease, and poison if every tick, have a 25% chance per tick to remove 1 magic debuff, a 25% chance during the same tick to remove a curse, a different 25% chance... Yeah, that's a different 25% chance to the curse, a different 25% chance per tick to remove a disease, and a different 25% chance per tick to remove a poison from you. This is to make Restoration Potions not be over-centralizing, by extension to make Purification Potions see some use. Elixir Poison Resistance will, instead of dispelling poisons, give you a 75% chance for the next 30 seconds to resist poisons on a 2-minute cooldown. This will count as a type C buff and share a cooldown with what those will share a cooldown with. All transmutes will have their cooldowns increased by this formula in order to cut down on professionals and greatly increase the value of transmutations. Your tools of the sword will reflect that the cooldowns are lower at high character levels. Furthermore, all non-new transmutation cooldowns will require twice as many reagents, but produce thrice as many products as before. Yeah, they'll require thrice as many reagents, that means 3 times, but produce 3 times as many products as before, due to professional ults being nerfed so hard. Frost Oil and Shadow Oil will no longer... Hold on. Frost Oil and Shadow Oil will no longer be useful as anything but reagents or quest objectives in order to keep tryhards on a leash. Not at Sharpening Stones. Or in Weight Stones. Not at Sharpening Stones or in Weight Stones are only useful by blacksmiths. Fire Frost Nature Arcane Shadow Protection Potions will absorb 1077 to 1723 damage, last for 2 minutes, and has a 2-minute cooldown. Greater Fire Frost Nature Arcane and Shadow Protection Potions will absorb 2308 to 3692 damage, last for 2 minutes, and have a 2-minute cooldown. Flask of the Titans will be renamed to Flask of Insurmountable Vitality, as I mentioned earlier. It'll grant 75 stamina instead of 1200 hit points. Flask of Distilled Wisdom will be renamed to Flask of Enigmatic Insight and grant 75 int instead of 1200 mana. Flask of Supreme Power will give 95 spell damage instead of 150 spell damage. All flasks will be blue items instead of being green items. That is, the item name will be changed from green to blue. The color of the item name, yeah. All flasks will require that you be under the effects of a corresponding spell in order to benefit from it, such that you can drink the flask and not get anything from your flask until you're under the effects of the relevant spell, in order to prevent tryhards from forcing people who are not tryhards to use flasks outside of 40-man raids. Well, not forcing, but pigeonholing. Outside of 40-man raids, coordinated world PvP, and raided Alterac Valleys. More on that in a different video. Given the nature of those spells. See section number 7.0.2, General Class Changes. Different section, General Mage Changes. Different section, General Priest Changes. Different section, General Warlock Changes. Different section, General Shaman Changes. And different section, General Paladin Changes for more information. So, for example, in order to benefit from the Flask of Enigmatic Insight, you must be under the effects of the spell Incantation of Enigmatic Insight. In order to be under the effects of the Flask of Insurmountable Vitality, you must be under the effect... excuse me. You can drink the Flask of Distilled Wisdom, but the Flask of Distilled Wisdom will not do anything unless you are under the effects of the spell, the Incantation of Enigmatic Insight. You can drink a Flask of the Titans, but it won't do anything unless you're under the effects of the spell, Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality. You can drink a Flask of Supreme Power, but it won't do anything unless you're under the effects of the spell, Ritual of Supreme Power. All Flask enabling spell... Do know that all Flask enabling spells... Oh wait, that's right, they don't have to stack legendary because of how I handled them. Now to show you one of the spells. Oh, do note that Paladins and Shamans get the, Paladins and Shamans both get the same Flask enabling spells, except one version of each are for Paladins, and the other version of each are for Shamans. So anyway, every Flask enabling spell works in the exact same way, except it's casted by different classes, and each one affects a different flask, except again the Paladin Shaman versions affect the same flasks. So here's an example of a Flask enabling spell. This is one that Shamans get. Rite of Lightning Reflexes, an elemental school spell. One rank, learned from a tablet, requires level 60 to use. If I recall correctly, dropped from Overlord Wyrmflack, with 1% drop chance. Requires 100% of base mana to cast. Requires a new reagent as a base cost of 1 gold. Reagent vendors I haven't decided a name yet. 2-hour cooldown. 10-second cast. Creates an altar in front of you that stands for 5 minutes. If you get 39 other level 60 players in your group, all click on the altar, then you'll begin the Rite of Lightning Reflexes. After 10 consecutive seconds of participation for all 40 people, the altar will glow. This causes all in your group who touch the altar afterwards to be able to benefit from a Flask of Lightning Reflexes for 2 hours. The enabler of which persists through death and cannot be dispelled. So you don't have to touch the altar. You'll only get the Flask enabling buff if you touch the altar after you cast the spell. This spell will overwrite similar effects and will end early if anyone leaves your group. That is, the buff granted by the altar will end early if anyone leaves your group. So yes, similar effects mean all other flask enabling spells. This 10 seconds of participation counts as channeling and can be interrupted, so make sure there are any enemies around when you cast this. So for example, don't get cocky and try casting it when there might be people around the world PvP. This and similar spells serve to cause players to only use flasks in 40-man raids, world PvP, and raided Alterac Valley, which is what pre-mage means really. Oh wait, did it? Oh, did I say in this video that this is? Oh, I put the wrong document version in this video. This is version 1.5.7. Yeah, this is version 1.5.17 is second, not 1.5.16, which I posted on the 20th. The previous version was posted on the 7th. Anyway. Yes, it does draft from World War War Black Ops. My memory is correct. It can be looted by the Alliance 2, by the way. You can then not auction it at, like, Booty Bay or something. Anyway, yeah. Also, the Flask enabling spells, all Flask enabling spells wear off early if you leave a battleground. Again, in case you forgot, you do not have to get the Flask enabling buff after you cast the Flask enabling spell. You can only have one Flask enabling buff at a time. If you want to drink a different flask, then the raid has to cast a Flask enabling spell again so that you can click the altar and then get a different Flask enabling buff. Again, you can only have one actual flask active at a time. Now then, back to alchemy changes. Now then, new and removed alchemy products. Flask of Lightning Reflexes will be added to the game, which grants plus 75 agility for 2 hours and otherwise acts as a typical flask. It requires 300 skill, 30 golden sand, 10 ice cap, 1 black lotus oil, 1 the aforementioned D20 gold regan, and an imbued vial from a flask table to craft. And an imbued vial and flask table to craft, not from a flask table. The rest of the will have a 1% chance to drop from its salient. Flask of demonic strength will be added to the game, which grants 75 strength for 2 hours, and otherwise acts as a typical flask, and requires 300 skill, 30 bronze blood, 10 stone scale oil, 1 black lotus oil, 1 of the aforementioned D20 gold regan, and an imbued vial and a flask table to craft. The recipe will have a 1% chance to drop, from Theldred. Flask of Petrification and its recipe will be removed from the game. It's too exploitable, and it'll probably be for the better if you don't know how. Flask of Chromatic Resistance and its recipe will be removed from the game because they kinda sucked. They'll be replaced with a new flask instead. Flask of Fanatical Celerity will be added to the game, which grants me 9% melee/range haste, and otherwise acts as a typical flask. It requires 300 skill, 30 stone scale oil, 10 mountain silver sage, 1 black lotus oil, not 10, 1 of the aforementioned 20 gold regan, and an imbued vial and flask table to craft. The recipe will have a 1% drop rate from a new dungeon 1 boss in Death Hole. A new 10-man raid I'm adding. Flask of Never-Ending Mana will be added to the game, which gives you 30 MP5 and otherwise acts as a typical flask. Oh, by the way, I also made changes to how MP5 works. That MP5 is even better than it was in vanilla. This will otherwise act as a typical flask and requires 300 skill, 30 golden sand, 10 stone scale oil, 1 black lotus oil, and one of the aforementioned D20 gold regan, and an imbued vial and flask table to craft. The recipe will have a 1% drop rate from the new dungeon 1 boss in the Ruins of Andor Hall, which, by the way, will now be an instance as opposed to uninstance 10-man raid. Kind of like a vanilla, except it'll be in an instance. Early vanilla, that is. Anyway. Again, the changes to MP5 are in a different video. You can find it in the playlist along with the HP5 changes. Section 3.0 point something. Flask of Unparalleled Acuity will be added to the game, which will give you 6% melee crit, 6% range crit, and 6% spell crit, and otherwise acts as a typical flask. It requires 300 skill, 30 ice cap, 10 mountain silver sage, 1 black lotus oil, 1 of the aforementioned D20 gold regan, and an imbued vial and flask table to craft. The recipe will have a 1% chance to drop from Dark Master Gambling. Yeah, that's 3 of them. Okay, good. Holy Protection Potion will be removed from the game because resisting Holy Magic does not make sense. It's already bad enough that there's level base Holy Resistance, which is where I drew the line. Minor Magic Resistance Potion, Magic Resistance Potion, Lesser Stone Shield Potion, and Stone Shield Potion will all be removed from the game because they are overpowered and I don't want to bounce raids around them. Recipes for Lesser, Regular, Greater, and Superior Rejuvenation Potions will be added to the game when I get around to it. A recipe for Elixir of Greater Fortitude will be added to the game. This potion requires at least level 40 to drink, requires at least Artisan Alchemy to brew, and Orentian Fiber. I'll probably make it something like 20 stamina for 1 hour. The reagents for this potion are not defined aside from a crystal vial. Of course, Elixir of Giants is going to be better. This is just going to be a lower level version of the Elixir of Giants. And again, don't forget how I changed buff stacking. Flasks stack up all other alchemy products, except for our flasks. The Formula 2 transmuted Heart of Fire into 3 Elemental Fire will be removed from the game. Oil of Ventilation will be removed from the game so that I won't have to bounce raids around it. Oh, by the way, these changes in buff stacking. These changes will overwrite how buffs will replace the means by which buffs stacked in vanilla WoW. Completely replace. Possibly excluding type J buffs. Greater Fortitude. Yeah, the formula to transmute a Heart of Fire into 3 Elemental Fire will be removed from the game. Oil of Immolation will be removed from the game so they won't have to balance raids around it. Oh, by the way, that quest, that scenario and the whole quest, the extra Oil of Immolation is going to ask for something else. I wrote that somewhere else in the document. A new item called Elixir of Greater Frost Power will exist. It will not be obtained for the Winter's Veil event. It will increase your Frost spell damage by up to 43 for 30 minutes and require level 40 to use, and 250 skill to make. Reagents are not defined yet. They'll similarly be a new Arcane Damage Elixir, Potion, and Greater Nature Power Potion Elixir. Both give 43 to their respective damage types. There will also be a new item called Elixir of Greater Healing Power. This will increase your healing by up to 67 for 30 minutes and require level 40 to use and 250 skill to make. A lower level version of this item will also be added to the game. Elixir of Dream Vision will be removed from the game, lets people use them to resist scum for rare spawns and raids. At 225 Alchemy, Elemental Alchemists may learn how to transmute 3 Elemental Earth, 3 Elemental Fire, 3 Elemental Water, and 3 Elemental Air with 60 strong fluxes to create 60 Elemental Fluxes, which will invoke a 5-30 transmutation cooldown. By the way, it is mentioned in section number 3.0.9, unequivocal item changes that Elemental Fluxes will no longer be sold by vendors. And again, don't forget, I lowered other transmutation cooldowns. Technically lowered other transmutation cooldowns by making it produce more stuff per cooldown. 3 times more stuff per cooldown. So don't forget that part. However, that only applied to transmutations that are not new, so it does not apply to this one. This just does exactly what it says. The following new spell resistance penetration potions will be added to the game. Ooh. I forgot to get rid of the lower level ones. Deleted the non-max level spell resistance penetration. Because no one's going to give a shit about the non-major ones. Excuse me, about the non-in-game ones. They're only going to care about the end-game ones. Anyway, Elixir Searing Flames causes your spells to penetrate up to 30 of the foe's fire resistance for 30 minutes. Requires 285 elemental alchemy and level 47 to drink. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. I'm just going to go over this subsection real quick. Rogues who know both the alchemy and poison professions will gain a plus 15 bonus to both professions for as long as both professions are known, because it thematically makes sense. Don't forget that poisons is a secondary profession that only rogues can get. Alchemists can specialize into botanical alchemy or elemental alchemy at 150 skill and character level 20. Botanical alchemy will focus on the more specialized plant-based stuff, which includes nature-themed and shadow-themed stuff, and their non-earth counterparts. While elemental alchemists will instead focus on elemental reagents, such as the Sword of Fire, but neither will focus on the arcane. The creation of many existing alchemy products, including flasks, will be locked behind either specialization after I get around to it. So, alchemists before level 20 will be so there's going to be plenty of arcane stuff before level 20 and after level 20, but until level 20, there's not going to be much fire or frost or nature or shadow stuff. Now then, back to these spell resistance penetration potions. Elixir of Searing Flames. Causes your spells to penetrate up to 30 of your foe's card resistance for 30 minutes. 285 elemental alchemy, level 47 to drink. Binding Cold does frost instead. Requires an extra 5 skill. And 1 level to drink. Elixir of Encroaching Nature. Causes nature resistance penetration. And then yada, etc. You can read the rest there. And then Elixir of Unstoppable Magic. Causes your spells to penetrate up to 20 of the foe's spell resistances, all of them, for 30 minutes. Requires 295 alchemy and level 49 to drink. Now then, alchemy profession cooldowns. These things are what makes alchemy a competitive endgame with engineering, and also before the endgame. Alchemists will get to craft many sorts of consumable potions that they can destabilize and then usually throw at something to cause various things to happen, giving tryhards a reason to be alchemists. All of them are listed below. The crowd control and effectively non-max level versions of these throwable potions will have a reduced chance to affect your foes, such that the chance of affecting your foes is reduced by 3% per level, that the potion's profession level restriction variable is below the enemy's level. Again, I went over what profession level restrictions variables are at the very beginning of the video in the introduction. Not very beginning, but somewhere in the introduction. These potions will have an alchemy level requirement, and many of them will require an alchemy specialization to use as well. These potions will all have a character level requirement equal to their profession level restriction variables, -5 to a maximum of 50. All these potions will have a 3-second cast time, and, where applicable, they may be thrown up to 30 yards. Designer. All these potions are designed around all these potions are designed around profession level restriction variables of levels 15/23/31/39/47/60, corresponding to minor, lesser, regular, greater, superior, and major respectively, regardless of their skill requirements. Hold on. That ended the actual potions. I do have this thing on, right? Okay. Yeah, so now onto the potions. First, the arcane-themed potions that can be used by any alchemist, not a proficient skill anyway. You don't have to specialize to use these arcane potions. Mana dispersal potions. Minor ones cause 215, 301 the target's mana to disperse into the air, cannot crit, on a 3-minute cooldown. Requires 90 skill to use. And then yada, etc. major ones. Major mana dispersal potions cause 887 to 1,242 to target's mana to disperse into the air, cannot crit, on a 3-minute cooldown. Requires 290 skill. Minor conductive potions. Now first off, these potions have to hit really fucking hard, because otherwise no one's going to use them in raids due to the 3-second cast time that I mentioned earlier. 9. Minor conductive potion. Charges the target in conductive fluid, causing the target to conduct arcane energy surrounding them, dealing 20 arcane damage every 3 seconds for 1 minute, on a 6-minute cooldown. 95 skill, casts as a magic debuff. And then yada, etc. major ones, the only one that anyone's going to use in raids. Major conductive potion. Covers the target in conductive fluid, causing the target to conduct arcane energy surrounding them, dealing 79 arcane damage every 3 seconds for 1 minute on a 6-minute cooldown. Requires 295 skill. Again, a magic debuff. 79 times 20 ticks, 3 times 20 equals 1 minute. So that's 1,580 arcane damage over 1 minute. This is definitely not going to be bursty in PvP, and you can just dispel it in PvP, so it's not of such concern in PvP. There's plenty of other stuff you can use for PvP, but this is what you're going to use to deal damage. This is going to be the one that people use to deal single target damage in raids. Botanical and Elemental Alchemists both get access to it, because it does not require specialization. Cancellation Potion, a PvP potion. Dispels all magical buffs and debuffs from all friends and foes with no AoE target cap within a radius of 10 yards on a 10-minute cooldown. Requires an Arcane Crystal Shard and other stuff to craft, and 3 are made per craft. 300 skill, major only. That is, there's no lower level versions of it. That's what this means. This does not affect people under vulnerability effects such as Divine Shield, Banshee, and Freezing Potions. What is an Arcane Crystal Shard? It is something that jewel crafters can craft out of an Arcane Crystal by breaking it into pieces. Hold on anymore. So yeah, a very powerful thing to be comparable to Arcane Bombs. Coughing Gas Potions. This creates an 8-yard radius cloud of coughing gas for 21 seconds. Foes within to have a 36% chance upon entry and every 3 seconds. Every 6 seconds to cough, actual coughing not intended. This is a red debuff that checks poison resistance and nature immunity. Coughing will stun the target for 3 seconds without triggering or abiding by diminishing returns. And this potion has an 8-minute cooldown. Botanical only. Regular 170 skill, greater 210 skill, superior 250 skill, and major 290 skill. Oh, by the way, when you invoke one profession cooldown for a primary profession, if you invoke one profession cooldown for a primary profession, then all profession cooldowns for that primary profession will go on cooldown for the duration of the cooldown of the thing that you use. Profession cooldowns also include cooldowns on equipment that is crafted by said primary profession. So, for example, throwing an engineering grenade will put Goblin Rocket Helmet on cooldown for the duration of the engineering grenade's cooldown. However, trinkets will be excluded from these, actually, now that I recall correctly, trinkets will not be excluded from profession cooldowns. Yeah, okay. Forget what I said about trinkets. Anyway, moving on. Hallucinatory Potion. Anyways, as another example, Cancellation Potion will put all other throwable alchemy potions on cooldown. Maturation Potions will put all other alchemy potions on throwable alchemy potions on cooldown, etc. And they'll also put healing enhancing potions on cooldown and vice versa. But they won't put shit like Flask and Elemental Protection Potions and Elixir Brute Force on cooldown. Those will not be affected. Does not qualify as profession cooldowns. Anyway. So yeah, Coughing Gas Potions are regular 170 skill, greater 210, superior 250, major 290. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the lower level versions will have a lower chance to affect high level enemies, while the max level one will not have a lower chance to affect high level enemies. Hallucinatory Potions. These disorient as a poison a target for 7 to 8 seconds. It makes a target if a player see and possibly also hear weird stuff. Drugs are bad for you. 2-minute cooldown, botanical only. Regular 175 skill, greater 215, superior 225, and major 295. Yes, drugs are bad for you, so use them on your enemies. Maturation Potions. Here's a fun one. Spawns a blood petal plant to attack your enemies for up to 30 seconds, after which it gets old and dies. Requires a blood petal sprout to use, botanical only, 5-minute cooldown. 3 requires 300 skill. There's only a major version, that is, there's no lower level versions. NPC, the level of the summon is equal to your level, to your character level. The damage dealt by the summon per melee attack is equal to 1.3392857142857115 per level on average. It has a 5% chance on melee hit to instantly cast Blood Petal Poison, which deals 0.5704365079366508 nature damage per level and drains that much mana every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. So, for example, Blood Petal Sprout that is spawned by a Maturation Potion is going to deal 80.5 average physical damage per hit with a 5% chance on hit 34 damage every 3 seconds, and drain 34 mana every 3 seconds. Both for 30 seconds. So over 30 seconds, it's going to be 342 damage and mana drain. Now next up, these are, by the way, still botanical only. Now, the Shadow Themed Potions. Anti-healing potions. Inflicts your foe with magic debuff that nullifies up to 543 healing taken over the next 4 minutes. 4-minute cooldown botanical only. 100. This counts as 100% healing reduction and applies after all other healing reduction effects, such as Moral Strike and Wound Poison. And stacks of all healing reduction effects except for other anti-healing potions. This can be consumed by overhealing. It does not affect health for 5 patrol regen. And it requires 180 skill to use. And then there are higher level versions of it. Major anti-healing potion nullifies up to 1051 healing taken instead of 543. And it's the same mechanics. Requires 300 skill. Botanical Alchemy, by the way. Yeah, it says Botanical only right here. Botanical Alchemist only. Now then, Disruptive Potion. Class the target's might of dark and dangerous stocks as a curse. Causes it to occur at 36% chance of spell failure for 21 seconds. 2-minute cooldown. Botanical Alchemy only. 170 skill for regular, 210 skill for greater, 250 skill for superior, and 290 skill for major. Debilitated Potion. This potion is here so that raid leaders do not force some unfortunate rogue or warrior to wield something like a cruel hand of Timmy in their offhand so that the enemy gets -X to all stats. Instead, the raid leader is going to tell some alchemist to throw a debilitated potion at the raid boss. Reduces the target's stats by 15 as a magic debuff per 6 minutes and 36 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown. This has priority over stat decreases that it does not stack with. Botanical Alchemist only. 295 skill. There's no low versions, only a major version. Conflagratory Potion. Causes the target to take 41 fire damage per second in these are the fire themed potions that only elemental alchemists can craft. Conflagratory Potion. Regular ones cause the target to take 41 fire damage per second and panic for 3-4 seconds on 2-minute cooldown. Elemental alchemists only 180 skill. Gotta consider major ones. Major Conflagratory Potions. Causes the target to take 80 fire damage per second and panic for 3-4 seconds. 2-minute cooldown. Elemental only 300 skill. Design note 16.0416 repeating itemization points were spent on damage, and the other itemization points were spent on the panic. And the lower level versions were itemized accordingly. Design note: Depanic and fire danger separate debuffs. Depanic will check stun resistance / immunity instead of fear. Combustive Potion. Hold on. That's better. Combustive Potion. Lights all foes within an 8-yard radius on fire. Dealing 54 fire damage every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. 8-minute cooldown, elemental only. 175 skill, magic debuff. You gotta consider a major Combustive Potion. Lights all foes within an 8-yard radius on fire. Dealing 105 fire damage every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. 8-minute cooldown, elemental only. 295 skill. Again, magic debuff. So that's 525 fire damage over 15 seconds to up to, excuse me, I forgot. All foes. When stuff like this in this document says all foes, it actually means up to 6 targets. That applies to everything in this video and the entire document, except for, like, certain abilities such as Consecration and Hunter Traps and Holy Nova, and I forget what else. Actually, no, not Holy Nova. That's not an exception anymore. Anyways, Unstable Potion. Causes a loud explosion within a 10-yard radius of you, dealing 230 physical and 157 fire damage to up to 6 foes around you, and stunning them for 3 seconds, red debuff. But dealing 319 physical and 236 fire damage to you, and stunning you for 4 to 5 seconds, red debuff. 5-minute cooldown, 290 skill. Design note: 19.16 repeating itemization points were spent on damage, and the damage to stun were multiplied by 1.5 for both because friendly fire exists, and then friendly fire was arbitrarily multiplied by 1.5, making friendly fire be multiplied by 1.5 3 separate times, counting the 3-second cast. Design note: this hitting so hard is not an H in your range because it stuns you. By the way, a little entity script. However, I've yet to make the semantics of the entire design document reflect this, though the fact that this change was made is in the document and has been for quite some time. Gotta get around to changing the semantics at some point. Anyway, those are concerned with semantics of the AoE target cap. Again, almost every damaging crowd controlling AoE spell, item, and buff that's available to players was to have a hard target cap on Thunderclap Whirlwind and works off if 6 targets per spell cast or tick. As part of getting rid of basically spell metagames for good. These throwable alchemist potions all are not an exception. Except cancellation potions. Those are an exception. However, those are not damaging or crowd controlling, so I guess they would not be an exception anyway, really. Anyway, chilling potions. The ice defrosting potions. Slows the target's movement speed and casting speed by 18% and attack speed by 27% for 21 seconds. Magic debuff. Bosses and raid bosses are immune, of course. 2-minute cooldown, elemental alchemist solely. 170 skill for regular, 210 for greater, 250 for superior, and 290 for major. Freezing potions. Freezes the target solid for 7 to 8 seconds, rendering it unable to act and immune to all damage and debilitation, but not removing existing debuffs for the duration, so it acts like banish. Bosses and raid mobs are immune. 2-minute cooldown, elemental only. 175 skill for regular, 215 for greater, 225 for superior, 295 for major. Design note: rounded down from 7.56 seconds to an average of 7.5. C5 deals 100 to 121 frost damage to foes within a radius of 10 yards and roots. Magic debuff. Then for 5 seconds, which is a chance to break early if damage is taken. 5-minute cooldown. Elemental alchemy only. Graded skill. No low level version. Design note: 10.83 repeating optimization points are spent on damage. The rest are spent on crowd control. And now healing enhancing potions. Minor healing enhancing potion. Grants you plus 150 healing for 30 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. 85 skill. And then you add it our major healing enhancing potions. Grants you 600 healing for 30 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. Requires 285 skill. And yeah, that's all I got for alchemy changes, since they already went over this part. And next video will be about blacksmithing. Thanks for watching, and see you later.